Hello, everyone. I am going to get our guest. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. I'm inviting today's show guest in. Hopefully, she'll be joining us momentarily. Okay. Okay, I think she's on her way in. I hope everyone is doing well. Hello, I see Curious Introverted Expat has joined. Welcome, welcome. We are just waiting on our special guest to arrive. Uh-oh, it says our guest is unable to join. Okay, let's try this again. Hang on for one sec here. Okay, we're trying this again. I see Franz Del Soin has joined. Welcome, welcome. Oh, there
Hello,
she
hello,
is.
hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing,
I'm
Frederick?
fine. I'm fine, Dominique. And Franz Del Soin, who just joined, says hello as well. Hello, Franz Del Soin.
Hi, Franz Del Soin.
It's great to see you. Let me intro you so we can get started and get into our conversation.
Okay.
And welcome to a Takeover Production just joined as well. But let me get and Violet Driz just joined. But let me get started, everybody. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to Frederick Johnson in Conversation. I am your host, Frederick Johnson. My guest today is the star of the Adult Swim Network's irreverent comedy Tropical Cocktails. She also co-stars on the Adult Swim Network comedy Black Jesus. She is the host of Dominique the Podcast. You know her from Last Comic Standing. You know her from Chappelle's Show. You know her from the new BET series Games People Play, or you know her as a comic touring the United States and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dominique.
Thank you for having me. Yay!
Yay! I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
Good,
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. Dominique, I want to start with a COVID question. Because I know, as I said, you're a touring comic. You're on a plane all year long. You're traveling throughout the United States. So I want to go back to the spring. There was the news of the shutdown that immediately impacted theaters, comedy clubs, etc. So when you realized what was happening, given what you do, what did you think?
Oh, a tear just dropped out my eye. Because I said, this is going to impact me.
Yes.
I can see, I've never lost that many shows in a matter of an hour. They just kept calling back. Well, that one got canceled. We got shut down. And every time they called, I slid further out the chair. I was like, oh.
Did you think it was, I know a lot of people thought, and it was based on news that was shared. Oh, we'll be back up in April. Oh, we'll be back up in May. Did you think that this was a short-term thing that was happening, or did you kind of know that this was a big deal?
I did know it was a big deal, but I didn't receive it. I just said, I'm going to speak these things as if they are. You know what I mean? I kept saying, okay, it'll be over by Easter. It'll be over by Easter. At least I'll be able to go to work after Easter. And the only one that agreed with me on that was Donald Trump. So you know how that works. When he came out and said it'll be over by Easter, I said, well, I know it might not happen now. So I did know it was a big deal. I had a friend telling me before that it was going to happen and that it was coming. He kept saying it was coming. And I was like, it's not going to be this bad. I was like, okay, we'll be all right. He was like, no, it's serious. He was really, really in tune to what was on the horizon. I really wasn't I really wasn't in tune like that. I thought it would be something. I figured, okay, yeah, it may be a little something, but I think that it'll pass. And I
Yes.
think it still probably would have passed, but we just didn't have anybody really working on it like that.
Right. 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 Well, Dom, you are a veteran in this game of comedy, and I want to go back because I know you are a native of Washington, D.C., and that's where it all got started for you. When did you know you were a comic?
My whole life, probably. But when I really, really decided to do stand-up, and then, of course, my mother would always say I was funny, had me doing little stuff like marking the past at church and different little things like that. But when I kept saying, I'm going to do stand-up, I'm going to go up, I'm going to go up. And then a friend of mine hooked me up with a guy that she hadn't seen in a while, but they ended up working at the Pentagon. And he was doing comedy. And so she was just basically like, okay. My homegirl said she's going to do comedy. So he was like, okay, tell her to call me. So I called him and I went, and I know this part of the story always sounds crazy, but I went over his house and I did like a little mini audition in his bedroom. It was really just it was really just comedy, though. I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Like
okay. When you look back, does it seem strange that your audition was in his bedroom, or was it a small apartment? I mean, like, why?
No, it was
somebody sleeping in the living room? Like, why was this in his bedroom?
Because he was living with his mother,
Okay.
So we were all packed up in his. I was in his room. It was another guy, a comedian friend of mine, Ray Grant. He was in there. That's how I initially met him. He was in there, and I just did my little 5 minutes, and it seemed weird. When I think about it, I was like, in the Me Too era, this sounds really, really, this doesn't sound good. It sounds really bad in the Me Too era.
Yes.
So I was just like, I was like, okay. And then I did the 5 minutes, and he was like, okay, that was actually good. He gave me some pointers, told me some things that I should stay away from when I went on stage. And I went to the Comedy Connection in Greenbelt. It's no longer there, but in Greenbelt, Maryland. I went to the Comedy Connection in Greenbelt, Maryland, and they didn't laugh a lot.
Okay.
But they did laugh enough to make me feel like, okay, I think I can do this. And it's almost like crack. Once you do it, you got to keep coming back looking for that same high bomb so many times. After that, it wasn't funny. Oh my God.
No, were you that first time though? That first time, because you've done the audition, but now here is the actual moment. You are going to go on stage in front of a whole bunch of people you don't know and do stand-up. I mean, were you terrified that first time?
I was terrified. I really was terrified, Fred. And I called all my friends and did my jokes. And, they thought my jokes were funny. And I was like, okay, don't pacify me here. Yeah. Be honest. Get tomatoes thrown at me. Give me boo. Don't treat me like that. They were like, no, that's good. That's a good joke. And so I went up and I signed my name. And because I didn't know how this worked, once I signed my name on the open mic list, other comics who had been doing comedy and they knew them and they had been going up, they kept skipping me and skipping me and skipping me. So comic or no comic, I was like, okay, I'm not about to sit here all night.
Right.
Now. And I just saw him walk in the door, and I've been here early. I've been here almost before the crowd. You know what I mean? So,
do you remember one of your first jokes from that?
Yes.
That first, tell, if you wouldn't mind, what was one of those first jokes? Okay.
So one of the first jokes was, I don't date a guy that drives a car that ends with a O. That's a Pinto, a Tempo, a Geo, because that O stands for, oh my goodness, don't even go there. But for an open micer, that was good. And so I sat there. Then they put me up, Because the thing that was weird to me, he said, oh, I didn't realize you were a woman, because everybody going up was a man. Okay. So when he said that, he put me right up. And I remember the person that brought me up the first time on stage, a friend of mine named Sean Miller, a veteran comic from D.C., and they put me up, and I did good. And so when I got off, the manager was like, well, can you come back tomorrow? Come back tomorrow? You know how long it took me to get here? I was like, no, I can't come back tomorrow. But I didn't even have anything to do. I just was scared,
Yes. Yes.
Like, oh, no, not tomorrow. Maybe next week. Tomorrow? Oh, no, I can't do tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. So so now it started. how long were you, is there a whole big enough scene in DC that you're going to different clubs every night? You're going somewhere else? I mean, what was that scene like in DC for comedians locally at that time?
The comedy scene was great. I worked a job, so I might not have been able to go as much as I wanted to go, because when I first started doing comedy, of course, I was working a job then. But the comedy scene was great, and then I would just go to different comedy rooms that I would hear about. Because the thing about comedy, once they see you have potential or see you're funny, the other comics will gravitate towards you. And they be like, okay, where you from? What's your name? And, they do this comedy spot over here, and they do this comedy spot. And not only did I think they saw potential in me, but I was a woman, and it wasn't a lot of women. So it changed the monotony of all the shows being shows with just only men. So they would say, okay, come on. Well, I got this room and I got that room. So I would be doing different rooms. And each time I went up, I started to understand more, and I got better and better. And the first time I invited family, I invited my cousin Lene and my aunt Dolores, and bombed out of the whole place. I bombed so bad that one of the other comics told me, don't worry about it, you'll be all right. I was like, no, that's just not good. And when I got back to the table with them, they said, you did all right, don't worry about it. You know how
the way that family that loves you lies to you.
Oh, they lie to you so much. I mean, and you saying to yourself, that wasn't good, but okay, I thank you for loving me.
Dominique, one of the early breaks in your career was your appearance on HBO's Def Comedy Jam, which was huge. Russell Simmons' HBO Def Comedy Jam, which I believe they were shooting in New York at that time. So how did that opportunity even come about, and how key was that to the success of your career at that time?
Just auditioning. Okay, so I auditioned several places. I would find out where they would be. Like, they would go to different places. They would go to New York. They would go to Philly. They would go to different cities all over. And if I could drive to that city, I would drive to that city and get myself in and ask, could I go up? So I went up. I went to I did it in DC. I went to where did I go? I may have went to Philly. I went to different cities and stuff. And I went up. And then when I went to Baltimore, Monique owned the club in Baltimore. And when I went to her club and I said, can I go up? I'm in there. I'm like, can I go up? And this. And one of the girls, Tina Graham, she worked with the production. She said, you don't need to go up. You on the show.
Wow.
She said, keep that between me and you. She said, you can go up if you want to. I'm like, no, I beat him bomb. He got put off the show. I'm going to sit back and, revel in what only I know. You know what I mean? But it changed the trajectory of my career. And I think that you have certain places. I mean, to this day, certain things happen in your career that keep you moving. When you need to turn another corner, you turn another corner. And it really, really, once I got on Def Comedy Jam, I was like, okay, I'm a comic and I'm going to work on this thing. And then my mother was a believer at that point. So that made it even better. You know what I mean?
It's undeniable when you end up on HBO Def Comedy Jam, only comedians are ending up on HBO Def Comedy Jam.
Ending up on HBO Def Comedy Jam. And when I got on that show, I was like, I'm off to the races. And it was like the credit of credits back then.
Yes.
If you had that credit to say you on Def Jam, you could get somebody to say, oh, really?
Yes.
Yes. So, it really was a great thing.
Yeah, and that was a great time. I mean, there were a host of classic comedians that were coming out of that time period that you all were a part of during that era with HBO Def Comedy Jam. I want to ask you about being a comedian from that time period, or I'll say pre-internet. Let's say pre-internet. So you have comedians who have come out of the club scene. They've come out of what we know are a lot of the ranks that stand-up comics go through to get to where they are in their career. In recent years, you have comedians that are known because of their popularity on the internet. I don't even know that they've necessarily done work in a comedy club or been. Is there a distinction to you, or is there a distinction in the world of comedy between, I guess, I don't even know how we would describe it, your classic comedian versus this, or I would say pre-internet versus this internet era born comedian? Is there a distinction?
Oh, absolutely. It's a distinction because the era I came from, we had to go to the club and get on stage all the time. We had to work at the craft differently. Not to say now, I'm not saying that working on the internet and what they do does not take hard work. I'm not saying that. I do think that it does take hard work to be on the internet and to build that way and to come up with things and stay on the internet for hours and hours or days upon day, however you want to describe it, to do that. I think that it is a hard thing to do. I think that it's difficult to do. Everybody, I don't think, can do it. You can try, but everybody can't do it at a high level. But I just came from a different era. We had to go to the club and we had to get it from the dirt, if you will. We had to go up and we had to do road trips in cars. We had to go city to city. We had to hone our craft differently. So what I was doing when I was growing up, I was honing the craft of telling jokes and setting up, having a set, doing a lot of writing of material and trying to be as authentic as I could possibly be because that's the school I came from. Now with the internet, they are comedians because they say things funny. They didn't necessarily go after the craft the way that I went after the craft when I was coming up in the way that we had to attack it in my generation. They go after it differently. They do funny skits. They say funny things. They do silly things. Well, that translates into people. So they say, okay, somebody will tell them, okay, you need to do stand-up. And they're working at it from that perspective. So it was definitely a different kind of grind. But definitely in my era, if it was the internet and it was that type of platform, I definitely would have been on it and using it, no doubt about it.
So do you feel that now as a comedian, coming from the era that you have and a lot of your contemporaries that are coming from that same era, do you all feel that you have to rely more now on the internet as part of how you do your comedy?
I think it's a necessity. I think you use it in a way that benefits you as much as you can. I don't know. I guess it's an individual thing. It's definitely a necessity. And it's a great tool for promoting and those kinds of things. It's definitely great for that,
Yes.
and to get yourself out there. But I think in the era that I came from, we're older comics now. I think some of us are able to really, really do it at a high level. And some of us not. Like it's a different kind of energy.
Yeah.
But I also, it's a different kind of energy. I don't necessarily know you have to do it like the younger generation that are on there now, but I think you can find a lane and see where you fit in that and then get in that lane and then work it from there. That's all I can really say.
Right. So Dominique, I want to switch gears. So your career beyond the stand-up stage, as we know, in television, Chappelle's Show, many different comedy specials that you've been a part of in different programs, the new BET series, Games People Play, and also in film. And I wanted to specifically ask you about the film that you did that Boo, Tyler Perry's Boo, Medea Halloween. Because Tyler Perry, it's Tyler Perry. He's an icon. So how did that come about? And then what was it like working with Tyler Perry?
It was great working with Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry was great. People always say what they want to say about Tyler Perry, but he was great. My experience with him was great, and I appreciate a person like him because he hires Black actors and actresses. It's a lot to be said about that when you hire Black actors and Black actresses at a high level. People do, but I'm talking about at a high level. But it was great. Like I don't usually too many things don't usually excite me and all this. I was very excited to meet him. I was like, how you doing, Mr. Perry? Nice to meet you. He's like, all right, just say Tyler. It's okay. Just say Tyler. But the thing that really got me was when he got out the car and he was Medea. That really, really, I was like, and it's like everybody that had never seen Medea on the set stopped. We was like, there you go, Medea. And we just looked and walked up. So it was a really, really great experience. And I actually, his people called my agent and we kind of went from there. So it was a great experience.
Awesome. And I know currently now, one of the projects you have going on is your own podcast, Dominique the Podcast, which later in the show, I'm going to tell everyone how they can find Dominique the Podcast. But I know that you spent, you were part of the Tom Joyner morning show for quite some time when you had an ongoing segment with that program. And so that's kind of going back to my question, I guess, about maybe with the internet. I want to ask similarly with radio, because I know that there's radio has always played a key part, especially in those morning shows like the Tom Joyner morning show. Now that you have a podcast, which was born during this pandemic time, and we see different folks, comedians and other types of entertainers also kind of pivoting toward podcasts. Is that the new radio? Does radio play the same role you feel for comics, or will it, do you think, kind of maybe post this podcast post this pandemic play the same type of role? Or is it something different? Is it an evolution?
I think that podcast, I think we're definitely heading into this era, especially with this pandemic. We don't know how long we're going to be here, so it's definitely the new norm. I also think radio will always always have its place. Like some people say, oh, terrestrial radio is dead. I don't necessarily believe so, because it's always going to be a generation that came from radio, when all there was radio. Like my generation, your generation, where all there was radio. All them people haven't died. People tend to believe that all the old school that like radio and those type of things, the news, the newspaper, people talk almost as if all them people gone. No, all those people are gone. So there are people that still listen to the radio, and I think they will, even though you can listen to satellite radio. But I think podcasts, it's a new way to reach people. It's a new way to reach people, and then it's a new way. It was definitely is a good way to stay connected during these pandemic times when we are separate and apart. And I think it's a good building platform. I think it's a good platform for people to get to know you more, the people that follow you, and to see different, to see the diversity in you.
And I love your podcast because your guests are comedians. So it's very interesting. And, I encourage everyone, we'll let everyone know where to find it, but I encourage everyone to check it out because you're interviewing comedians. So I feel like it's an opportunity too, that as someone who's a fan of comics, I get introduced to comics that I wasn't familiar with in your show. And I get to see a different side also too of comics, because I'm not seeing them on the stage. They're still doing their thing and they're doing bits on your show. But you're really talking about current events. You're talking about politics. You're going into a number of different types of issues that we get to see the comedians in a different light, I feel, as your guest. Was that deliberate? Was that deliberate?
I think so, because people don't really realize that we can be very conscious people, that we are funny, but we don't have to be funny all the time. And I like the way that comics think. We think differently about things, and we see things in situations that people don't often see that way. Yeah. But we can basically talk about anything, and it'll be other people besides comics as well. And it also, like you just said, it'll introduce you to comics that you may have never known that are very, very funny comics. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. They are really, really talented comics. And if you see them on the show, that's why I have them promote what they're doing and where they're going to be, so you can get into what they do and how they do what they do, and go check them out when you see them in your town, or when you see them come to the club or whatever. Go see them, because sometimes we have a tendency to just support popularity. Right. You can't do that. You have, if you're going to support support the craft. Just one day say, I don't know who this is, but they at the comedy club, so I'm going to see them. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with supporting popularity, but it's some great comics that may not be as popular as other comics, and they will give you a hell of a show. You just got to go buy a ticket, $20, and go sit in there and eat some food and just enjoy the show. Yes.
Dominique, I want to ask you about your show that you star in on Adult Swim.
Tina Graham on here. I just brought Tina Graham up. Hi, Tina Graham.
Hi, Tina Graham. Thank you for joining the conversation, Tina Graham. For those who maybe came in a little bit late at the top of the show, in my introduction to Dominique, I was mentioning that she is the star of the Adult Swim Network's comedy series Tropical Cocktails, which you can, while the show is not currently in production, while things are down in production at this moment, you can go to Adult Swim Network and stream the show. So you have that show you star in, and then you co-star on Black Jesus. Those seasons of Black Jesus are also on the Adult Swim Network channel's website as well. But I want to ask about Tropical Cocktails because somebody said to me, "What's that show about?" I was like, I'm going to have to ask Dominique. This is the best way I can describe it when I try to tell people who haven't seen it. It's like a standard, almost a parody kind of police procedural. So it's kind of your standard cop show, but it's like a standard cop show turned on its head. It takes place on a tropical island, and it's insane. I can't really. How do you even tell someone, how would you even explain what the premise of the show is?
I think that the premise of the show is, I just think it's a cartoon in live action.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's a cartoon in live action. So when you're looking at it, kind of act like you're looking at a cartoon where anything goes, anything may happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? All of it might not have a rhyme and a reason, but it's funny stuff. And it's just like, do whatever you feel, and let's have fun and get you a good laugh. Have a glass of wine and sit down and have a good laugh. So really, that's how I describe it. It's really, really like a cartoon in live action.
Yeah, the show is hilarious. It's hilarious. It's so original and it's so out there. And I know Adult Swim is known for having a lot of shows that are out. They think outside the box.
They think outside the box.
They think outside the box. So
just go out. When you're looking at it, just go outside the box. And when you go outside the box, you'll be like, that is really funny. But you just have to go outside of that box. And if you can go outside of that box, it's a good show. And it was really a fun show making it. It really was. It was different work for me. It was out the box for me. So I was really excited about that. I like to do work like that.
Right. Nice. So I encourage everybody to go to Adult Swim Network and check out Tropical Cocktails. Dom, before we wrap up, I want to talk about, of course, your upcoming comedy special, Keep Your Distance, a social distance comedy special. So I just want to let everyone know this comedy special, which is it's created and hosted by Kevin Fredericks, who, AKA Kev on Stage, I believe is his stage name, Kev on Stage. So Kev on Stage is hosting this great comedy special featuring 7 different comics. It will stream on Thanksgiving. So it'll stream on Thanksgiving, and then it will continue to stream the day after Thanksgiving. So this Thanksgiving, November 26th, is the premiere, and then you have an additional day to watch it. You do need to buy tickets. The link is in my bio. So if you go to my Instagram page, I am Frederick Johnson. I'm sure also if you go to Dominique's Instagram page, we'll tell you how to get there as well. You can click the link in my bio, and that will take you to the Eventbrite page where you can buy your ticket. So I want to ask you, what can people expect? Because it's called Keep Your Distance, a social distance comedy special. But what can people expect for this special?
It's stand up. It's outside because we can't be inside in California anyway. We can't be inside, and so it's outside. Everybody is social distance, so it's not a big crowd. I guess there may have been, I don't know, I want to say socially distanced 15, 20 people there maybe with the social distance, and it's outside. So it's a stand-up show. It's just a new norm kind of stand-up show that came on stage. He's an internet. I don't want to say he's an internet comic. He's doing comic, but he's birthed from the internet, I would say, from what I understand. Let me say that in case I'm wrong. And he has this social distance comedy show that's outside, and he asked me to be on it, and so I did some time on it. I did a few jokes, so it's interesting, it's funny, and the other comics, like you said, they were very funny, so go check it out. And it's a clean show, so the whole family can watch the show. It's a clean show, so you don't have to worry about when you eating your turkey, because that mother, you don't want to have to go. You don't have to, grandma can watch it. Grandma can watch the show. And you can get your tickets at kevonstage.com. And you can use my code. This tickets are $17, and you can use my promo code, which is my name, Dominique, and check it out. And you can see the show comes on YouTube. Okay.
Awesome. And I think when you buy your ticket, I'm sure people are probably, but just in case, when you buy the ticket, it is via Eventbrite. So you buy your ticket on Thursday morning, because the show will premiere on Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
on Thursday morning, Eventbrite will send you a link. So when you receive the link from Eventbrite, that will give you access to streaming the show. SciSocial 2015 says, nice for Thanksgiving. SciSocial 2015, I agree. I think it was a brilliant idea. He did this because a lot of people, this is going to be an unconventional Thanksgiving for them possibly. And it's nice that you get I love how there's 7 comics on the show. So you get a full comedy show.
You do.
I think it's great for the price of the ticket. So again, you can go to the link in my bio. As Dominique says, you can go to kevonstage.com, to his website as well for that information. So Dom, before you go, I want to tell people a couple of things just to make sure they know where you are and where to find you. On Instagram and Twitter, people can find you at Dominique Comedy, and that's DOMENIQUECOMEDI. So
that's for Facebook.
Facebook. Okay, so please let us know for Twitter. Where do they find you at Twitter?
Dominique Comedy, COMEDI. So it's DOMINIQUECOMEDI. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitter as well. And so Facebook was the one you just gave, Dominique Comedian.
Dominique Comedian. Okay, wonderful. Where you all know where to find Dominique. I hope you'll be spending Thanksgiving, a little bit of your Thanksgiving time with her as well.
Please do.
Okay, please do. Currently streaming episodes of the show she stars in on Adult Swim Network, Tropical Cocktails. Please check that out. Dominique, is there anything else you want to leave us with before we go? Anything else coming up you want to share?
I have a comedy special on Amazon Prime, and it's entitled "Stop Me When I'm Lying." But it's my last name. They use my last name. So it's Dominique Witten, Stop Me When I'm Lying. WITTEN, Stop Me When I'm Lying. So that's on Amazon Prime. And I'll be on the new season of The Boondocks. Ann Magruder did the reboot of The Boondocks, and I'll be one of the characters on The Boondocks. And I think that premieres on HBO Max. So check that out. Check out Tropical Cocktails. And yeah, that's what the young people say. And yeah, when they when they finish the end of their sentence, and yeah.
Well, Dominique, well, congrats on the comedy special, and we'll look forward to. I know there's Boondocks people that they have a huge following. People love the Boondocks, so I'm glad that's getting rebooted on HBO Max. We'll look for that as well. So, Dominique, congratulations on everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and happy holidays to you as well. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you guys for joining. We will see you soon. Happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to everybody.